G'day guys. A very early build of Batocera for the R36S was just released. It already has support for all major non-clone R36S panel types, as well as support for a single clone. But today, we'll be trying everything on our non-clone R36S Panel 4 variant. I have had a play around with Batocera in the past on an old Windows PC, but this is my first time trying it on an actual handheld. Now this does use a Linux-based file system for the games, so you won't be able to copy games directly to the SD card once it's been installed on a Windows device. At least not without third-party tools. So for this video, to keep it simple, we'll be using a second SD card in slot 2 for our games. Let's get into it. We're over on our Windows 11 PC now, and to get started we want to download and write the Batocera R36S image to our SD card. To do that, we've just opened up Google Chrome and gone to the original Reddit post from 17 hours ago. That's how new this is. It was originally posted on a Discord channel, but thankfully Famous Air 1605 did repost it to Reddit, which is how I found out about it. In the post, there's a Google Drive link, we'll just click that. We want to open up the R36S folder, and we want to download the very top file, Batocera RK3326-R36S, followed by a date stamp of when it was created, .image.gz. It's the very top 1.88 gig file. We just want to download that. It'll say it can't scan it for viruses because it's too big, that's fine, click download anyway. While that's downloading, we'll also need something that can handle GZ compression. I believe newer versions of Windows 11 do support GZ compression out of the box, but if your PC doesn't support that, instead just use something like 7-zip. You can simply download and install it from 7-zip.org. Very straightforward. And finally, we'll also need something to write the image to our SD card. For that, I always like to use Rufus. We've just gone to rufus.ie, scroll down a little bit, and as usual, we'll download the portable version, which at the time of filming is 411p. Once everything's finished downloading, we can close off Chrome and open up our downloads folder. Inside, we should have Rufus, as well as our Batocera compressed image. If you also downloaded 7-zip, just double click on it and follow the on-screen prompts to install it. Next, we want to extract Batocera image, just right click on it. If you're on Windows 11, you may need to go down to show more options, 7-zip, and extract to. Once it's finished extracting, we'll just open up the folder to make sure it's in there, and it is. It's just under 7 gig. Next, we want to insert the SD card we'll be writing it to. This doesn't need to be blank, but you will lose everything on it, so make sure if you have any files on there, you back them up first. With the SD card inserted, we'll go back to our downloads folder and open up Rufus. At the very top, under device, make sure you select your SD card. For me, it's the only one that shows up. It does say Batocera, but that's just because I've already installed Batocera to this, but we're going to wipe it and reinstall it anyway. Next, under boot selection, leave it as disk or ISO image, and to the right of that, click select. We want to navigate to where we extracted the Batocera image. For me, it was under downloads, and just double click on the image itself. Once you've triple checked you have the correct device selected, click start. You'll get a pop-up saying you're going to lose all data on the SD card. Click OK, and if you have multiple partitions on there, you'll also get another warning, just click OK again. It shouldn't take too long to write, only around 1 or 2 minutes. Once it's finished writing, we can click close. Now before we eject the SD card, we do have to configure the panel type. So we'll just open up the Batocera partition on our SD card. Inside should be a folder called overlays, open that up, and there's a bunch of DTBO files. We want to find the correct one for our handheld. So for me, I know it's a panel 4. So we want to rename the panel 4 DTBO. Just right click on it, go to show more options, and rename. We want to go to the very end of it, and we want to delete R36S-panel 4. So it should now say mipi-panel.dtbo. Press enter. You'll get a warning saying if you change the extension, it may no longer work. That's okay, click yes. You'll notice there is a panel file for R36S clone. I have tried that on my K36 variant clone, which normally works out of the box with ArcOS K36 without having to change anything. And unfortunately, although it does boot, and I can hear the background music playing, the screen does stay black. But if you do have a clone yourself, and you try this, and you are able to get it working, please let us know down in the comments so we know exactly what handheld this overlay is for. With that said, we can safely eject our SD card. I'll just go back to this PC before I do it so we don't close File Explorer, and safely eject. Before we move back over to our R36S, I do want to prepare our second SD card, the one we'll be using just for ROMs. Just going to insert it into our PC. Once again, it doesn't need to be blank, but we will be formatting it, which means you'll lose everything that's on there. So make sure if there's anything on there you want to keep, you back it up first. We will be formatting it to FAT32, and although we could just use the Windows built-in format tool, just right click on it, go to format, since the SD card is only 16 gig, if it's larger than 32 gig, that won't work. So instead, we'll go to downloads, open up Rufus once more. Once again, on a device, make sure our SD card's selected, it is. Under boot selection, click that and change it to non-bootable. You can change the label to whatever you want or just delete it altogether. Under file system, make sure it's set to FAT32 or large FAT32. We'll also click show advanced format options, and I want to uncheck create extended label and icon files. This just makes it a little bit cleaner. Once you've double checked you have the correct SD card selected under device, click start. Once again, you'll get a pop-up saying you're going to lose everything on the SD card. Click OK. It shouldn't take too long. And when it's finished, just click close. Now we can safely eject this SD card, and we'll move back over to our R36S and go through the initial Batocera setup. Now we're back on our handheld. I'm just going to insert the Batocera SD card into the right-hand side slot, slot 1. We won't insert our ROM's SD card just yet. We'll keep slot 2 empty, and we'll power it on. You will get a black screen for around 10 seconds. Don't panic. Just be patient. And if you've used the correct overlay, you should get something on the screen. It's just finished resizing the partitions. The first boot can take around 1 minute, so once again, just be patient. And here it is. It's finished its initial setup, and it has rebooted. So the first thing I've noticed is the battery says it's 100%. It isn't. It's probably around 90% now, or maybe even 80. When I was messing around with this earlier, the battery indicator was stuck on 0%. So it looks like at the moment, the battery indicator is a little bit off. It has just dropped down to 99%. Before we take a look around and see what's pre-installed, we do want to power it off. So just press start to bring up the main menu, go to the very bottom, go down to quit. If you're used to something like ArcOS, then straight away you'll notice that the A and B buttons are swapped around on this. So B is accept and A is go back. This is apparently pretty standard for Batocera, and there is an option to change it in settings, but we won't do that just yet. We'll just go down to quit, press B to accept, go down to shut down system and press B. Press B once more to shut down. Once it's finished turning off, we want to insert our second SD card into slot 2. This is the ROM's SD card we just formatted, and we'll power it back on. Every boot after the initial setup, it will play a very short video. Here it is here. I thought that was a nice touch. If you were wondering, it is possible to change the boot logo in ArcOS to a video. So now it's rebooted, we want to go to settings, so just press start once more, go all the way down to system settings. Remember, press B to accept and A to go back, so press B, go all the way down the bottom. Where it says storage device, press right again, and we want to change it to our SD card. So for me, it says no name, 14.5G. That is the SD card we just formatted. Once that's done, go all the way down to back, press B, go down to quit, make sure restart system's highlighted, and press B to restart. This time when it boots, it will take around 1 or 2 minutes because it is setting up the second SD card. After a little bit, it should eventually reboot, and your second SD card should now be ready. Before we copy games over to it, I do just want to swap around the A and B buttons, so just press start, go to the very bottom to system settings, again press B, go all the way to the very bottom to front end developer options, press B again, and near the bottom, it should say switch confirm and cancel buttons in emulation station. Want to highlight that and press B. Now before that'll take effect, we have to go back down to back and press B for the very last time. Now, as you would expect, B should go back and A goes forward. So now that we've set everything up, let's take a quick look at what's pre-installed. There's a few test games on here, one for the Commodore 64, Fix-It Felix, PC Engine game. There's 2 of them actually. There's a NES game, SNES game, Game Boy Advance. There's a few ports pre-installed. You got Prince of Persia, Doom, and a Bomberman clone. There's a Python game, Mega Drive, and that's pretty much it. When you go into one of these system menus, like Commodore 64, the games are all on a single screen, and you have to scroll one at a time. This can get pretty annoying, but it's pretty easy to fix. Just press select while in a system, go down to game list view style, and press right. You can change it to basic. We'll take a look at that. Just press B to go back. It just puts it into a nice simple list without any box art. If you go back to the menu, change it to detailed, it's a list with the box art. So this is more similar to how ArcOS is out of the box. It is personal preference though, so it's entirely up to you how you want it to look. Keep in mind this setting is on a per system basis, so we've changed Commodore 64, but if we go over to NES, you can see it is still using the full screen layout, so we have to change it there as well. This only has to be done once, but once it's done for good. I've noticed that you can press right on some of these screens and it takes you to the next one. I guess that's part of the detailed layout. So with detailed layout selected, you can change the system using the D-pad without going back to the main menu. So now we can go between Commodore 64, PC Engine, and NES. I think it's worth trying the Doom port. There it is there. I've noticed that it takes around 10 seconds for games to actually load in this. That might be a deal breaker for some, just something to keep in mind. And here it is. It is just the shareware version. So if we go new game, we'll try episode 3. It does say shareware, that's fine. You can obviously copy your commercial WAD over to it, but it is nice it does work out of the box with shareware. And sure enough, it does run full speed, just as you would expect. There's not too much else to say here, it is just Doom. You should be able to quit out using FN and start, and you can. I think we'll power it off and copy some games over to our second SD card. So we're back on our Windows 11 PC now, and I'm just going to insert the SD card from slot 2. This is our ROM's SD card, and we'll see if it's created all the correct folders. It looks like there's some stuff on there. We'll open it up. There's a Batocera folder, that's a good sign. And sure enough, here's all the system folders. So the most important folders are probably going to be the ROMs folder and the BIOS folder. It does come with the Commander X16 BIOS, which is pretty interesting. I believe that's 8-bit guy's homebrew computer. If we take a look at ROMs, all the systems are here. And to copy your games over, you just open up one of the system folders, for example, Game Boy, and paste all of your Game Boy games in here. Fairly straightforward. There is a ports folder, and it is currently empty. So before we copy some games over, I think we should download the manual Portmaster install script. I have made a video on this in the past, but basically you just go to portmaster.games. On the front page, click download and install. At the very top says download the latest version, click download. It'll take you to the GitHub releases page. And I would recommend downloading the full install Portmaster script. It's around 500 meg, but for this video, just to make it easier, I'll just download the minimal install. It's around 16 meg. I've noticed that the minimal install does allow you to play some ports, so that should be good enough for today. With that downloaded, we can close off Chrome once more, go back to our downloads folder, copy the script, just highlighting it, press Ctrl C, go back to our SD card, Batocera folder, ROMs, open up our ports folder, and we'll paste it in here. I'll copy a bunch of test games over, including a few ports, and we'll come back. So I've finished copying a bunch of games over, but before we try any of them out, I do want to manually install Portmaster. So just going over to ports, I will change the layout to detailed to make it easier to see, and we should have our install Portmaster script, just run that. I've noticed the screen does stay completely black during the install, and when it finishes, it does reset the emulation station front end, so just be patient. There we go, it's finished installing. So I only copied one Portmaster game, and that's VanillaRA, so we'll try running that. It's worth noting it didn't run out of the box before running the install Portmaster script, so it looks like Portmaster isn't installed by default. Once again, it took around 10 or 15 seconds to actually load. Let's check our joystick mapping. So the left joystick does move the cursor, and the right one moves the options up and down. So they're not inverted. That is pretty great. We'll go start new game, normal. And yeah, it works perfectly fine, no issues at all, full speed. This is an easier to run port, which is why I always like to use it for testing. The mouse cursor does move all the way to the very edge as well, which is great. On some clones, I've had issues where it runs, but then the cursor sort of stops here. For some reason, not too sure why that happens, but it doesn't seem to be happening now. We can quit out of this by pressing FN and start. So we won't try any of the lower end systems, we know they're going to work fine. Instead, we'll try some of the more demanding ones. So Dreamcast is usually pretty hard. I just got House of the Dead 2. So I didn't copy any BIOS files whatsoever over, and I did get a pop-up saying that there's no BIOS. But we'll try run it anyway. This usually runs fine on other OSs without copying the BIOS over, so I do have high expectations. Once again, around 8 or 10 seconds to load, not too bad. It seems perfectly fine so far. So it is a little bit laggy actually. It is still fully playable, but it doesn't seem to be running full speed. Just as a reminder, this does seem to run almost perfectly when using ArcOS. We'll quit out of this one. Again, FN and start. We'll try PS1. I've just got Crash Bandicoot 2, a nice easy to run one. Again, no BIOS, we'll go continue anyway. To be fair, the Dreamcast slowdown could be caused from lack of BIOS. So we're finally in the game, and this one does seem to be running perfectly. No real surprises here. We'll try a little bit more demanding one again, PSP. We've just got Megaman Powered Up. This one usually runs about the same on just about every OS that I've tried on the R36S, almost perfectly with a few lag spikes. So it'll be interesting to see if it's any different here. And sure enough, it does seem to be running pretty much the same as it does on every other OS. No real surprises here either. I think next we'll try N64, we just got Mario Kart 64. This one usually runs mostly okay on other OSs. Not perfect, but still very playable. This one did take the longest to load at almost 30 seconds, so that is interesting. It's a little bit of lag so far. We'll see how it goes in an actual race though. Just as a reminder, this is using the stock settings. I haven't changed any graphics plugins or cores. And it's a little bit slow, but it runs slow on other OSs as well. It looks like this one runs about the same as well. The only real issue with this one was the massive load time. Last up, we've got Nintendo DS. Once again, something nice and easy, Mario Kart DS. So we got the no BIOS warning as well. We'll launch it anyway. But unfortunately, it doesn't load, it just kicks us straight back to the main menu. So it looks like Nintendo DS might not work out of the box, at least for this original version. It's also worth noting, I did copy a bunch of DOS games to the DOS folder, but they haven't shown up. I think next we should try Wi-Fi on this. So I'm just using my cheap, trusty USB wireless adapter. This little adapter usually does have pretty great support, so it'll be interesting to see if it works here. Plug it into the OTG port. I did hear a little bit of speaker interference, so that's a good sign that the USB OTG port is working. We'll press start, go down to network settings, enable Wi-Fi. We'll go Wi-Fi SSID, and hopefully it finds it. It has. So it looks like wireless works. I'll enter the password. So I've entered the details and it still says not connected. I think we just have to refresh this page. So I'll press B to go back. It is taking a few seconds. There we go. It says Wi-Fi enabled. Go back into network settings and we do have an IP. Now we have internet. I do want to see if the built-in scraper works. So if we go to Dreamcast, you can see there's no box art, same as PlayStation. Pretty much every game that we added doesn't have box art. So press start, go down to scraper, and we'll keep it all as default and just go scrape now. I didn't add too many games, so it shouldn't take too long to scrape. We did get an error in French saying we haven't logged in. It looks like we may need to set up an account. Can't seem to go across to the options menu for some reason. Oh, there we go. Very strange. So we'll go across to accounts. I'm not sure why it's not letting us do it anonymously. Normally it works fine. We might change screen scraper to, I guess, the games DB and see if that scrapes. There we go, it's scraping now. So screen scraper may have been updated to require an account, no longer letting you use it without an account, or it could just be a bug in Batocera, not too sure. But changing it to a different scraper source did work. It's still scraping Mario Kart. It's taking a while. I guess we'll come back when it's finished. Hopefully not too long. So it's been about 1 or 2 minutes now, and it is still sitting on Mario Kart. So PSP hasn't scraped, our PlayStation game hasn't scraped, and Mario Kart hasn't scraped. So it looks like it's not actually scraping. We might change it to HFSDB, see if that works. Go scrape now, stop the old one, start scraping again. Seems to be a lot faster now, we're up to Mario Kart DS. I wonder if it's trying to download videos actually. I didn't check the settings, so we'll go back. No, video is disabled. I'm not too sure why it seems to be hanging all the time. It could just be the scraper source. We'll try the next one. Didn't allow us at all, it looks like. Got an error denied. Yep, invalid credentials. What about ArcadeDB? It says scraping once again. Oh, there we go. It seems to be working now. It seems to have finished now, so it looks like it may have just been an issue with the other scrape sources. We'll go back and see if it worked. That worked. We'll try an NDS. DS didn't work, unfortunately. Dreamcast didn't work. Nah. So I'm not sure why scraping isn't working for me. We'll try screen scraper once more. Let me just check the options. That seems fine. So even under accounts, it looks like there's no anonymous option. We'll try scrape anyway, but no, you do have to have an account now. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get scraper working. I think next we'll disable our Wi-Fi. So go back down to network settings and disable. I'll remove the OTG adapter, and I think we should try USB tethering from my Android phone. So I've plugged it in. USB tethering isn't disabled, which is a good sign. We'll toggle it on, go back to the home page, give it a second. Hopefully we do get an IP address, and we do. So USB tethering works as well. That is really, really handy. Just for completeness, I think I will try screen scraping once more, using USB tethering this time, just in case it was a Wi-Fi issue. So scrape now. No, it still wants us to log in, that's fine. See if we can change it to one of the other ones, the games DB. This is the one that hung on Mario Kart 64 last time, and it looks like it has hung as well. So unfortunately, I just can't get screen scraper working. I may try make an account and try again in the future. Overall, it's a very cool little OS, and this very early alpha build does seem to be almost fully working, at least on our Panel 4 genuine device. It's obviously far from perfect, but I don't think there's any R36 OS that is perfect, and my main issue with this is how long it actually takes to load a game. Nintendo 64 did seem to take almost 30 seconds, whereas easier to run systems like NES and Game Boy do still take around 10 seconds. That's not really a huge deal breaker unless you plan on changing games quite often though. I do love the fact that it does include test ROMs, which is great for seeing if your fresh install is actually working correctly. USB Wi-Fi and tethering support was also really, really good, and we were even able to get some ports working on it. We weren't able to scrape any box art on the handheld itself, but again, that could be an issue with the hosts themselves, like Screen Scraper requiring an account now, and not related to Batocera. I was a bit disappointed that the DOS games didn't show up, even though we added them to the included DOS folder, but there's probably a way to fix that. I think where this would really shine is on clones. I'll definitely be keeping my eye on this Batocera port and seeing where it goes in the future. I would really love to get this working on my K36 clone. Once again, just keep in mind this is an extremely early alpha build, and it was only released yesterday, so you can't really be too critical with it. Another minor issue that I have with this is that it uses a Linux-based file system for the ROMs, so it does require extra steps to get games onto it if you are using a Windows PC. This isn't too uncommon though, as other OSs do also use a Linux partition for the games, but I do always appreciate a good FAT32 ROMs partition. I think that'll do it for today. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.